Hi, and welcome to the Chicken Chess Club review of game number 13. And we are very honored today to have a famous, I would even say prestigious guest here. It is Mr. Dodgy. Thanks a lot for finding time in your busy schedule to come here and debate the game with us. No, that would be very wrong. On the contrary, you're here because I saw that, well, you are somewhat active on Twitter, perhaps not my levels, but we're getting there, right? But you actually predicted the opening spot on. So tell us about how did you get to that deduction? Yeah, yeah. You mean Nepo, yeah? I kind of agree. I think also, I mean, no, I mentioned it a bit yesterday also. I mean, this is such huge decisions that you're generally also trying to act in a way that you can live with it afterwards. And I mean, let's say Nepom forces a draw with white, then loses game 14. Okay, he's gonna feel horrible, right? But of course, it's a balance act. I think had Ding played the Berlin, I mean, in the Berlin, there is some very boring lines where only white can win, like for instance, Rook E1. So I would have been a bit surprised by that. So it seems like Ding just decided to stick. But what I meant specifically was that you said that Nepom is going to do 6d3 and we're going to do some small idea in the sideline, right? Ah, like this. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Um, yeah, I get your point. There is not necessarily that much to remember. I mean, well, I can't remember it, but if we had Jan Gustafsson, it's my feeling we could wake him up at 4 o'clock at night, and he will say, "This is a draw here, this is a draw there." Um, my best hunch would be that everybody would like to do it like that, but it doesn't really exist as easily, and typically also Black has some kind of alternatives. But for instance, for the I think it was the Kayakin Carlson match, there was still some issues. So there, for instance, we were polishing the main lines quite a lot. But I think recently it completely fell out of fashion. I think they think it's too easy. Also, well, the problem, let's say you could do it against Magnus, for instance, because he doesn't have that many lines. Well, he has quite some, but not that huge experience on the Black side of the actual martial. While Ding has been doing it all his life. He's heavily into details. I mean, I don't think so. And then, of course, well, you could, of course, come something like heavy over the top, but that always comes with a considerable amount of risk. So I think the problem is these days that these things are kind of solved. But no, I get your point. And but I mean, for something like Rapid, it could make sense to come up with some kind of bluff that if it exists. But my feeling is that incredibly mapped out. And I think what people sometimes lack the courage is to do is to play something that's they almost know is bad, but and to bluff. I mean, well, I was playing the World Cup against Adam. So sorry for changing the subject to talk about me. And I played the Dragon, and he played always 9 long castle. At some point, I started to panic a bit. What am I going to do if he plays Bishop C4 on move 9, which is a sharper move? And at some point, I thought, okay, I'm just going to blitz out this line, and if he plays all the right moves, I'm going to resign, and that's it. With more time on my clock. Sometimes you have to be a little bit practical, but I think the problem is that there's nothing that really works against the Marshal, and somehow to play something kind of dubious in a World Championship match is it takes considerable balls. And if we had Swidler here, he could probably talk about some memories from Brisago. But I think we should only annoy him with that when he's actually there, not sort of. It's not our style to do, trash talk people behind their back unless they are Jan Loran, right? So yeah, no, apparently, yeah. Anyway, so he played. Mhm. Yeah, yeah. And now he switched back to C3, which he played in, I don't know which game it was. Probably, it's embarrassing. I cannot remember the game number, but he played a very, very nice game there and outplayed him. So the game was Castles 8-3. And he probably game three. Then I cannot remember. Yeah, yeah, of course. The first game he took on C6. The next game he played this line. He actually played a very good game. If anything, I would say this is the game where Nepomniachtchi came up with a nice strategical concept. He's prepared. He executed it quite brilliantly. I mean, by any standard, the highlight of his match. And then he went back to that strategy. I was a bit curious if Ding would do something else than Bishop B7 in this position, but he didn't. He played Bishop B7. And in that game, I think it becomes embarrassing. Probably he played A4, if I remember correctly. No, no. I mean, also it's I'm still the second of the world champion, only for a day or two more. But I don't seem to pay that much attention. It seems. But I think he played A4. In this game, he played Bishop E3, and there you have it. This is your small idea. Well, turn on a computer, you will say Bishop E3 is one of the many moves. You'll say that perhaps White is slightly better. I'm still a bit puzzled that this is what Nepomniachtchi does in a game like this. I mean, it's like, well, doesn't he have anything else than this? He must have prepared a lot for this opening before the match, or is he just trying to play, small ball stuff, or is he shaken? It's hard to say. What mainly puzzles me is that Ding plays very obvious moves and also the top moves of the computers, and soon Nepomniachtchi seems to be more or less on his own. Maybe he has forgotten, but that strikes me as weird. So, no, this one, it's a bit odd, but of course also, well, they are humans. They had quite some emotions yesterday, so everything can be explained by that. But still, it puzzles me a bit. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean it's also a pity. We should have the other Peter, or we should have Jan. I mean they basically spent all their time on this. I remember even once I was at a training camp with Vichy and the other Peter, and they seem to understand why you do these kind of things. I honestly don't know. I mean, well, you always do that. You put the bishop back on F8. I assume they are better there, but well, what do I know? He plays A4. Also kind of logical, and I think he followed it up by H6, right? Yeah. Now I'm puzzled with what happens because very soon after this, Ding is slightly the better. But also, I mean, the moves Ding is playing is extremely logical. And well, what is Nepomniachtchi's prep? I'm incapable of saying. I understand that people start doing strange things when you put them under tremendous pressure. I was wondering if he forgot to include taking on b5, which is the computer move here. But I mean, that would also be strange if he forgot it. No, I mean, I'm kind of incapable of explaining it. But I mean, I guess you kind of have to do it if you start playing Rook E1, Knight F1. There's no particular point of having the bishop on E3. It's just kind of wasting time. No, it's very logical. I mean, d4 strikes me as logical. You also say, why should White exchange on b5? He can do that whenever. But we saw that exactly in game three, that there he took on b5. But of course, the other bishop was on a2 and it was different. But even so, no, it is just, I mean, it is strange. If you want to play, I think it was Magnus who said, if you want to play some kind of sideline, you really need to prepare it well. it puzzles me what happens here, because Ding is just doing logical moves. They're even kind of suggested by the computer, and he ends up being slightly better. Something has gone wrong in Nepom's prep, but well, these things happen. So tell me about it, right? Anyway, he plays d4 immediately, and Ding takes quickly, takes knight, and now knight c4. I think the point is, if you have swapped in the pawns on b5, you could take an a8 now, and I mean, things are not too bad. It's not like things are very bad now, but I mean, you have to make some kind of unpleasant choice. I think the computer wants you to take on b5, ab5, but then you can take on e3, takes, and while the computer thinks you have half a pawn extra and it's not too bad, I mean, any human will start staring at these pawns on e3 and e4 and think, okay, I mean, is this really how I'm going to treat my world championship match? I don't think so. So, I mean, yeah, well, I can understand you have an extra pawn. Things are not too. You don't have it yet, but you will take on b5. But it looks like beginnerish play, right? So Nepo quite understandably took on c4, take back, and here I started feeling kind of nervous on his behalf. F3 is the very logical and human move. It's just not very good. I think I forgot if the computer wanted to play queen e2 perhaps and aim at the c4 pawn. And but it's a kind of illogical move. I mean, you can defend it with rook c8, for instance. I mean, well, I think maybe then it wanted to go f3, and now for some reason you could hide the queen on f2 in some line, and it was not too bad. But the point is, I was incapable of understanding it, and they still seem to be in this kind of quick mode here, right? They were still playing quickly all the time, was my impression. Yeah. Yeah. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were tweeting about that even, no? Or oh, mhm. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. No, of course. If anything, I think Dink suffered from the other things. He was obviously using much too much time, and he's only gotten back in the match because of help from his opponent, right? So, no, I get your point that if you start completely freezing, it also makes very little sense. I mean, it is difficult. It's just that I mean, maybe they also. I wouldn't say this position is very difficult, but I mean, f3 is the very intuitive move. It's just kind of bad. And if you suddenly have to play moves like queen e2 or a5, I mean, they're not so easy to do in a practical game. So here, I think people started understanding that while objectively speaking, before f3, Ding was not really better. Well, he soon would be better, and that's exactly what happens. So bishop f8 happens, right? Bishop f2, getting ready to take in d5. So d5 takes, and bishop to e4. Yeah, no, I really thought also this would be considerable suffering. The computer is giving rook b8, right? Yeah, it defends the bishop on b7, and then I guess knight b4 to d3 becomes an option, and things like this. Maybe the computer was also mentioning the move queen g5, which seems rather human. Well, you're sort of toying with knight f4 ideas, giving mate on g2. Most likely he's going to defend against that, right? But I mean, rook e5 came as quite a shocker. I think also Vichy was tweeting that you should play rook b8 in this position, but I guess we all. Me neither. Yeah. I mean, no, I think it gives Rook E1 as well, but the difference is not particularly big as far as I recall. But I mean, this is a huge swing in momentum here. I went from, okay, this is going to be tremendous suffering from Nepomniachtchi to actually thinking, okay, now Nepomniachtchi is the favorite. I mean, but of course, a draw is by a large margin the favorite result, but momentum has shifted. And like Caruana, I was also trying to put a bit of brain activity into understanding Rook E5, but I think also like Caruana, not to the extent that I would care enough to actually say, okay, let's stop and like make sure I understand it. I also I have no clue, to be honest. I mean, well, I can say Bishop E3, Rook G5, but okay, that is so cooperative that it's ridiculous and wrong for a number of reasons. I, 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 I mean, maybe he just thought E5 is a nice square, defends the knight on D5, but it is puzzling to me. I mean, and maybe it's also a good example. We tell him to use more time. Ding actually used a considerable amount of time and played a very weird move, right? Yeah. No. Hmm. Yeah, I thought, as far as I remember, this was a rather good move in a way, in the sense. Uh-huh. Ah, you're right about this. I remember that. Uh-huh. Yeah, not at all. I mean, no, you actually managed to explain it better than me because I haven't figured out this was the point. But I generally remember thinking it's very unlikely he finds this. I mean, and also he, no, I mean, well, also, well, no disrespect to the players, but well, they are playing in this very logical way, and this is not very logical. I mean, you know, eh, I mean, if there was no decent alternatives, maybe they would actually manage to find it. But no, this is unlikely, right? So he goes 92, and now the next move was not that good, right? Uh-huh. No, but I think, is it also something like if Queen D4, you would go Knight F6 or something like this, and then Bishop B7, Rook D8, maybe? I forgot if this is the line. Maybe not here. It gives away that I'm not capable of playing on my own. It seems like you can just take and C4 most likely. Okay, it was not here. There was some line where they would do like this, but I mean, my general impression was here that after, yeah, it looks very logical, but that was basically my main problem, that the logical moves started becoming pretty bad for Ding. And well, the general feeling is that the players will settle on logical solutions. And I mean, we can all stare at our engines, but it doesn't seem to have tremendous relevance in predicting their moves, right? It makes more sense to think in a certain way. And Queen D4 is a very strong move now. I mean, here I started thinking, okay, this can easily go wrong for Ding. I think computer suggests now he should play Queen E8, Rook C4, Rook D8, but such is never happening. Um, and yeah, I think computer gives Queen A7, Rook E7, some random moves like this. But I mean, again, I mean, we're just discussing what the computer says. I don't think we are saying anything relevant for the actual course of the game. Yeah, yeah. No, I'm not even gonna try. So I mean, so but F5 was, I kind of liked it. I was a bit surprised by it, but I didn't think there was any kind of easy way out. I mean, this at least has the advantage of forcing things, but I would have been nice to have Swidler here to sort of ask how the evaluations is of this exchange sack, because basically it is a pure exchange sack now. So bishop g3 is important. It kicks the rook on e5. You could play fe4, but he chooses to play rook takes e4, which is also decent. So takes, queen takes. There, swap, swap. And I think, what did he do? Yeah, I mean, computer thinks things are not too bad, but I don't know. I think Vichy said this is going to be tremendous suffering, and I mean, well, a trick sometimes is that, well, you have a position like this, you start to move around with the pieces to sort of grasp, is it a general draw, or is it draw by a number of very, very exact moves? And well, this one seemed a little bit in between, that if you make too many random moves, White is doing well, but also it was not like there is only, it's not like there is, you have to do 6 perfect moves in a row is the only way you survive. So I wasn't sure, but I felt at this point there was huge momentum for Ding. I don't know, maybe you follow some commentators, or? Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, well, it wasn't. Mhm. I thought that it was like 50-50 if Ding would manage it. Maybe I was too skeptical, because actually he managed to draw it rather easy. I think also knight b4 is not an exact move the computer is giving bishop e7, but I think we are again into the usual thing. I mean, we can, well, I can explain bishop e7. Sometimes it goes to g5, sometimes to f6. But just like knight b4 is extremely logical and straightforward, right? Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. 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 Mhm. No, no, I understand, but it's again like, it's easy to explain when you know it's true, but when you don't know it true, could also easily say that. I mean, I mean, it's a matter of urgency. Putting the knight to d3 could also be right. It just turns out to be not to be. Is my impression. Yeah. It depends how good his evaluation is. I mean, so he gives a check, right? King h2, bishop c6, rook c7 is the point. It basically forces exchanges, and now takes, and now the move bishop d5. Yeah, I mean, at first I thought bishop d5 is not that easy a move. On the other hand, I thought that there is simply no other way. So Ding has to find it in a way, and he did. Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you take an a4, you take an c4, and I mean, at least one of the pawn starts to drop. So, mhm. Yeah. I mean, well, I can read. Yeah, yeah. No, but also I was trying to understand, well, why is it that it's so good comp? But well, of course, the knight on d3 is nice, but also the white rook cannot really get active, right? I mean, he went rook c2, I guess, and he played bishop c6. Well, he had to get out of the way, and maybe it is kind of difficult here. I thought also that Cesar, as we spoke about, I think he sort of calmed down. First, he said, "Ah, this is promising." Then he said maybe 0.20. And no, I thought there was some line where Black had to play g5, but as the game progressed, it seemed like he played a5, and you could just play common sense with king f7. And now they just choose to repeat. I think even in this position, apparently you could play the move king to e6 as well. Um, yeah, better only move once. And I think if you take on e4, takes, then computer says king d5 is also just equal. Maybe the bishop probably reaches d4 and b2 is falling or something like this. So um, I was a bit puzzled. Nepom just took the draw, but probably he sort of actually it's. it could be that he just understands chess considerably better than me, and there is absolutely no chances. I mean, I'm just calculating he has 5 points against four, but that's probably not how chess is played. Probably, yeah. So yeah, you take an e1, right? I mean, you can go bishop b5 if you have to. It's I mean, knight, put the knight on d3. It's nothing. It's not much happening here. Yeah, not fully, but certainly. I mean, we're talking 95%, I guess. Yeah. No, no. I think mhm. No. I mean, when was the last time White was equal out of the opening? I don't recall. But yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, well, I think also Ding mentioned at the press conference that you sure I'm White in the last game. Well, we all remember that Anand lost to will beat Topalov with Black. How do you see his strategy? You think Ding is gonna push hard or why? Just explain. Hmm. Yeah. No, I. Mhm. Maybe. No, I remember Ding beating Magnus in a rapid playoff, but I mean that's probably back in I forgot 18 or 19, probably 19. And it was a different thing there. I get your point about the speed. I mean, well, it's not that easy to change gears to that extent. I mean, with Magnus, we even always had him play a couple of quick quick training games in order just to get somehow closer to the rhythm, and that might be a problem for Ding in a way. Having said that, it's gonna come down to nerves and randomness, I think. Of course, also we talk a lot about Ding running out of ideas. I mean, well, if this is what the Pomnishi has left, he's also a little bit running out of ideas, right? So I don't know, but well, my hunch is Ding is just gonna play and see how things develops. But do you think that? I mean, this you see sometimes well in football, but in many sports that I mean, they would like to go to the playoffs because then they can, as minimum, say, okay, we lost the playoff. I mean, it's like the World Cup. I mean, England would always say we lost the penalty competition or something like that, right? I mean, it feels a little bit less embarrassing than being blown off the board, I guess. Mhm, mhm. Yeah, no, I think it's 4 games. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I didn't notice that. Okay, okay. Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's, yeah, okay, fair enough. I mean, I could give you a lecture about 150 years of. I mean, could you imagine Capablanca and Algerian play a rapid blitz playoff for the title? Maybe you could actually. That would be, maybe it would have been awesome fun. But no, 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 no. But, mhm. There is nothing to do. Well, we could make them play eternal match, but that also. I mean, that phase has passed, right? So. I mean, yeah, no, no. I think it is as it should be, and I mean, I feel incapable of predicting this match. I think both players are tired. They are out of ideas. It's gonna be a bit random. I mean, it's a cliche, but the one making the last mistake is the one who's gonna lose this match. And it feels a little bit more than the match is there to lose than to win. I mean, it strikes me that it's more likely that we will see the match decided by some kind of mistake rather than someone playing a grandiose attacking game, right? That's the feeling you get at this point. But yeah. It's I mean, yeah. I mean, well, I am sort of damaged by having this as my profession, right? I mean, I would like to see more decided, well, more, let's say, interesting opening battles, stuff like that. But well, I mean, as a fan, well, I understand you're also a chess professional, but in a different way, right? You actually, for you, it's been a very enjoyable match, is my impression. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. I mean, it's not really my role to comment on that, but I get your point. I think you are hitting on a very good point. Is that the player thinks they're evenly matched. I think that's actually a huge advantage because in the previous matches, I think everybody, I mean, well, also the players had agreed Magnus is the better player, but well, I'm trying to win anyway. And this leads to, a considerably more defensive strategy at times, right? I mean, well, basically, if you think you're the worst player, why would you aim for 14 complicated games? It sounds like the worst possible strategy there is, right? Here it's kind of different. They might actually both think that, well, I mean, let's find out who's the better player. It could be me. Let's go for that. Secondly, also, I understand that the match has been equal at times, but more often it has been on +1 for Nepo, right? If I do the math correctly, or maybe it's kind of evenish. I don't know. Yeah, no, and that also means that I think, well, it was Lars Shandov who once explained to me that, well, these kind of both matches and tournaments develop their own psychology. And basically, when things are balanced, they will stay balanced. When things are unbalanced, it might become completely wild. And we have seen some of that. Of course, now it could slow down a bit, but also, I mean, well, now we are in this very weird situation that, well, just one bad move, and, well, we have a new world champion. I mean, for me, it feels a little bit weird that some games, you have people like yesterday Ding, who has a clearly lost position and then wins the game. For me, it kind of feels wrong. How do you have it with that? Hmm. No, no. Also, I mean, let's go back to Dubai with Magnus when I'm there. I mean, I think both game two and game six, Magnus was technically lost in these games both times. He made 1.5 point for them. I mean, well, I might be cherry picking. Well, I would really like to be cherry picking. Of course, I have my own narrative, but I'm trying to get your point there. Well, you generally see it as an interesting sport competition, and back and forth is part of sport, right? Um, mhm, mhm, mhm. No, I think that the problem with matches is that something has to be at stake. I mean, else they will not take it seriously enough. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Mhm. I mean, yeah, cool by me. Maybe it would be kind of difficult getting Magnus back, but it's not really my intention either. He'll have to figure that out himself. I mean, then he'll have to play a bunch of matches. That's how we did it classically. But I think at some point they ran out of money or didn't really work like that. I mean, I'm actually that young that I don't fully remember. I mean, but it's true that they changed it at some point. Hmm. I mean, well, if they are, expensive, must be. It's a matter of choice. I mean, well, depends on how much you pay the players, right? I mean, to a certain extent. I mean, it's not. I mean, well, I mean, you have a nice flat there. I think we could have a match in your apartment. It's just a matter of having the right price point that becomes the problem, right? But I honestly, the honest answer, I have absolutely no clue. I haven't thought about it for 1 second until you mention it, but it sounds like a great idea. Yes, I would be. Yeah, that's true. I mean, it would be a good joke anyway. Well, I was. I mean, damn, you're tough. You're coming with all this tricky questions. But I would be a bit surprised, to be honest. I mean, I would rather think he would sort of tweet who won because just trying to, signal that he hadn't followed at all. But I, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's. I mean, I think at some point as a trick I learned from Vichy at some point. But yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, well, also, I mean, that's the same question I get all the time. When will Magnus come back? I have no clue. It's kind of strange to actively quit and then immediately start off talking, coming back, right? I mean, but unless you think it's a media stunt, but I think by now the world figured out actually he doesn't really like these matches. Well, of course, this match, I mean, if anything, he would be a bit envious of, but I think also he kind of understands that. Well, he couldn't just swap places with Ding because it would be a different Nepomniachtchi he would play. And if you swap places with the Nepomniachtchi, would Ding play like this? Probably not. I mean, it's a completely. Yeah, yeah. I think. Well, I think it's an old argument. Well, I had with him, but with others also that. Well, let's say you have 6 hours. If you want to find out who's the best player of two persons, I mean, having them play one classical game is more or less the worst thing. I mean, sure they will play correct chess, but let them play 50 blitz games. The better player will almost always win there. And the same. I mean, if you let them play 50 rapid games, I think Magnus would come out all on top all the time. And you can say, well, I'm creating a system that favors Magnus. And I would say, no, I'm creating a system that favors the best player. But I mean, chess also has to be a little bit random. And I think this match, uh, I have so many things against it, but it has been pretty entertaining. And maybe also the players has evolved to this phase where they understand I will never find an objectively good opening idea again. So let me try and get some practical edges. They started bluffing more, and I mean, we saw a lot of entertaining stuff from Ding, both that he played and things he leaked, right, and stuff like this. I mean, of purely practical nature, or well, maybe he has an engine that's much better than mine. But when I turn on my engine, it doesn't seem to say wow. It more say, okay, this is I can do this today, and well, I mean, I almost feel a bit envious. We should have bluffed even more, but it's not that easy. And also, I mean, again, this that the players are so equal means they want to optimize. While Magnus being, let's say, an 85% favorite, why should he start bluffing all the time? That would also be weird. So I think actually having two very equal players is pretty cool. I don't know what you else. What do you? I mean, we can also criticize FIDE a bit, but let's not. No, I mean, but yeah, yeah, no, no, no. I'm not talking. I was trying to be funny for. I mean, but sort of. No, it's been. I mean, my honest feeling is that it's random. I mean, no, I mean they both seem so well, not groggy, but they don't seem capable of controlling it anymore. I mean, well, you see, I mean, Nepomniachtchi, he probably says, I'm going to play this small idea and I'll just make a draw if it doesn't work. He's instantly worse. I mean, you saw yesterday, Ding, he was considerably better after some weird move in the opening. He played it badly, then he was, completely outplayed. I mean, this idea that you're just wide and can play something, I mean, they're both playing unreasonable stuff. So as long as they're not willing to force a draw, I think things can get out of hand. I very much agree with you that I think a draw is very likely. It's my feeling is also both players would welcome it, but I don't know. Maybe you have a point that Ding is not fully confident in Rapid. Maybe it's so long time. I mean, also the problem is I don't know the players well enough. I do, but I don't know how Ding feels. I mean, if you remember Magnus against Caruana in was it must be 18? 18. Wow, it's 5 years ago. Okay, time flies. But there was this. I mean, Magnus forced a draw, or he offered a draw in a much better position in game 12. And Kasparov and Kramnik were saying, okay, Magnus is going to lose the playoff. He's lost confidence. He's doing strange things. And I thought, okay, fuck, what am I going to do? I went to pick up Magnus, and he was just smiling. And I didn't bring up the subject. It was obvious that this was a guy who thought, okay, this is the right strategy, and I'm just going to kill the guy in Rapid, which he did. I mean, we only see Ding and Nepom from the outside, and you can get certain ideas there, but it can also be that they're completely different at home. I don't know, honestly. But, I mean, of course, I would predict any game being a draw. So I don't know. But, well, of course, when you talk about it, well, I guess we have this image of Nepomniachtchi being a better Rapid player, but maybe we just haven't seen Ding play so much Rapid, right? I mean, when is the last time you saw Ding? Yeah. Could be, but well, yeah. I think he. Mhm. But also, Ding was. I mean, Ding was playing them at the 3 o'clock at night, right? I mean, so I don't know, to be honest. And also, I mean, it's again this thing that yes, it's a rapid event, but first of all, it's a playoff for the world champion. I think that could be a stronger factor. I mean, we probably all remember Anand against Karpov. Anand I mean, was basically winning everything in rapid, but there his nerves collapsed. I mean, we will see. But well, also we saw. I mean, Caruana completely collapsed against Magnus, right? I mean, weird things can happen. I mean, I really think that we are in the stage of the match where one lucky bounce and you're it's over. So and yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, so far they have been equally good or equally bad. There's not, it's not like everybody will say, okay, it's a huge injustice if Mr. X doesn't win, right? Or, yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, no, I think that yeah. I mean, we can easily point to, okay, if he hadn't done this move, he would have won. But well, that's that's what the game is about, right? Any conclusive remarks from you, or should I just thank you on behalf of all the chickens for someone with actual courage showing up here on our yeah yeah I would Mhm. Yeah, I mean yeah, probably yeah. I mean, they have done it by making, in my opinion, quite some mistakes, but also, I mean, well, at least they seek areas where mistakes will happen. I mean, no, also, I mean, uh, I probably think it was a stupid idea of Jan to play like he did today, but it takes some kind of courage, right? I mean, and yeah. Mhm. Yeah, paid off is a bit strong, but I mean, well, I think, well, no, just to end off this, who comes out from game 13 in the best mood? That's actually a bit unclear to me. I mean, if I was Ding, I would say, okay, sure, I was better, but then I was also worse. And Nepo will say, okay, I managed to outplay him. I mean, I think you can build whatever narrative you feel like. Mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, Richie is a cool character. I mean, maybe Ding has a bunch of other people, but somehow, I mean, no, he's kept a light spirit. I guess we always thought Ding was, I mean, after all, a stubborn and tough character, but we don't know it to that detail. So, mhm. Yeah, yeah. I think also when we ran for FIDE elections, we thought we are probably not going to win, but should we win, we're going to make a movie. It's always a bad sign if you're thinking about that. But no, it's true. I get your point. That I mean, you can say, okay, Kramnik, sure. Well, you didn't qualify for the match, but I mean, I didn't qualify for the candidates or the match, right? So that I can easily top you. No, I get your point, but that can maybe also get you into. Well, you can sort of say you have nothing to lose, but now you are there where you understand you have something to lose. But it's, of course, it's been a weird cycle in many ways. But let's see. Okay, thanks for having you. And I almost had hoping that the other chickens will not really come back, so I can chat with you again. But we'll see if I'm in luck for next time. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Also, I mean, we might actually await doing our podcast until the match have finished, so that we don't suddenly end up, just leaving a big cliffhanger. We would rather be up to date with all the critical feedy questions and stuff like this. So see you back then. And once again, thanks for coming here. Bye bye.